create a box plot for the following prices of book bags. So it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 data points. All right, let's go ahead and enter these data points into our calculator. I'm going to press data. I'm going to delete out any data that is currently inside of this list. And let's go ahead and just start punching this in. So we have 15, enter. I mean, again, we had 22 data points, and if you look at the end of my list 1, it says that a 22nd data point is 50, which matches what I have right here. So I do like to double check. Now we can go ahead and press second data, go down to 1 variable stats, keep hitting enter until our values come up. And I'm going to scroll down until we get to the minimum. All right, so it says that the minimum is 15. It says that Q1 is 29. It says that Q2, or the median, is 35. It says that Q3 is 40, and it says the maximum is 75. Okay, so let's go ahead and take these 5 points, and let's go ahead and plot it on here. We can count by 10, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. You could have picked other values to count by, but since our lowest was 15 and our highest was 75, counting by tens would reach our maximum and our minimum. Our minimum is at 15, so we're going to put a dot in between 10 and 20. Our maximum is at 75, so we'll put a dot in between 70 and 80. Our Q1 is at 29, so we're going to make a line just right below the 30. Then our median's at 35, so we're going to make a line in between 30 and 40. And then our maximum is 75, so looks like, and our Q3 is 40. So we'll create our box with these values. We'll make our whisker going to the minimum and a whisker going to the maximum. Okie dokie. So one thing that I do want to point out is that if this is your min, this is your median, and this is your max, let's talk about how much data is represented in every single piece of this. From the minimum to the median, that would be considered 50% of the data, right? The median splits the data directly in half. So in between the minimum and the median, that's 50% of the data. Same thing on the other side. 50% of the data also falls in between the median and the maximum. Okay, the next conversation that I want to have is the fact that Q1, let's say Q1 and Q3, okay, between the minimum and Q1, that would represent 25% of the data. And then between Q3 and the maximum, that would also represent 25% of the data, because Q1 is the middle of the lower half, Q3 is the middle of the upper half. So essentially, this whisker is 25%, this box is 25%, this box is 25%, and this whisker is 25%. All right. After that conversation, let's answer these questions below. The middle 50% of the data falls between Q1 and Q3, which in this case, let's see, Q1 is at 29 and Q3 is at 40. So 50% of the backpacks, okay, cost somewhere in between $29 and $40. Then it says 75% of the backpacks cost what or less? Okay, well, the whiskers 25%, this box is 25%, that box is 25%. So from the minimum to Q3 is 75% of the data. So 75% of the backpacks cost $40 or less. And I guess that's actually not at, is that directly at 40? Yeah, Q3 is at 40. So $40 or less. Whereas if you look at the other range, 75% of the backpacks cost what or more? Well, let's look at 75 in this direction. This whisker's 25%, that box is 25%, this box is 25%. So from Q1 to the maximum, that's 75% of the upper half of the data. So 75% of the backpacks cost, and I think this was sitting at what, $29 or more. So 75% of the lower half of the data is in between the minimum to Q3. Okay, then 75% of the upper half of the data is between Q1 to the maximum. Okay, what is the range of this data? Okay, in order to calculate the range, you are just going to take the maximum data point, subtract the minimum data point. So in this case, we have 75 minus 15. So there is a $60 range in the cost of backpacks. And then are there any outliers? In order to calculate outliers, there's 3 calculations we're going to have to do. The first one is finding the IQR. So to find the interquartile range, we're going to do Q3 minus Q1. So let's see, Q3, that's 40 minus Q1, that's 29. So it looks like the IQR is 11. Now to find what the range is for anything that falls outside of this, remember it's Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR, and then it's Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. So these are the 2 calculations you're going to have to do. Well, actually, I guess there's 3 calculations. Start with the IQR and then bump over. So let's see, that'd be 29 minus 1.5 times 11. So that'd be 29, let's see, minus, that'd be 12.5. And then we have Q3 plus 1.5 times 11. Let's see, that would be 56.5. So anything that is less than this or greater than that would be considered an outlier. So there are no backpacks that cost less than $12.50, but there are backpacks that cost greater than 56.5, and there's actually only one of them, and it's at 75, right? It's at maximum. So I would say 75 is the only outlier. Okay, on to the last example. Use the box plot below to answer the following questions. It says, which data set has a higher median? Okay, well, let's go ahead and remind ourselves. That's the median. That's the median, or that's considered Q2, right? That's directly in the middle of the data. So it looks like the height of boys, right? The boys have a higher median, which kind of makes sense, right? Height of boys, we would think typically boys tend to be taller than girls. What is the third quartile for the boys? Well, remember this is Q3, so it looks like it's at about 72. I'm assuming this would be inches. Do boys or girls have the lowest height? Well, if we look at the minimum for girls is at 61, where the minimum for boys is at about 66-ish. So I would say girls at about 61 inches have the lowest height. Do boys or girls have the highest height? Well, let's look at the maximum for that. So maximum. Looks like the boys have the highest one. So, and that's about at 74 inches. And last but not least, it says write a sentence about how the boys' Q1 is related to the girls' data. Let's be specific about it. So let's take a look at the boys' Q1. Okay, so 25% of the boys are in between the heights of 66 and 68 inches. So 25%. Then, and let me just go ahead and mark this. From here to here, that's 25% of the data. Okay, then if we think about the girls, that's actually 75% for the girls. So from here to here, that's 75% of the girls are 68 inches or less. So if I wanted to summarize this in a statement, I could say 25% of the boys are 68 inches or shorter, where 75% of the girls are 68 inches or shorter. Okay guys, so feel free to go back and rewatch anything from this video. If you're done, pick up a copy of homework from the sub. You guys can get to work. If you finish that homework assignment early, go ahead and work on your EOC review questions that are due on Friday. Good luck.